Hello, good morning. I'm Jason Flores. Welcome to In the Feed Zone. We're going to get started here in just a moment, just getting everything shared out as we get a few viewers here. So, just a quick introduction. My name is Jason Flores, back from a little bit of a break, but everything's looking good, feeling a lot better. So, we are back on track with In the Feed Zone. So, welcome. A quick medical disclaimer before we get started is that the only purpose of this live stream is to educate and to inform, and is no substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional, and is provided on the understanding that it does not constitute medical or professional advice or services. And just a quick, bringing us back to the beginning here, welcome to In the Feed Zone. My name is Jason Flores, and today we'll be covering a piece of media or current article in the media covering food and hydration and how it relates to endurance sports. Also, we're going to use it to open a dialogue for viewers to ask questions and to get advice and to talk about their experiences. If you haven't seen In the Feed Zone before, it's actually available on Friday mornings, but more so, other than it being live here on live by Zwift Live by ODZ, you can catch it at your favorite podcast app by just searching The Endurance Lab. You can also see our other content there as well. Chat and chill, what's up with power, skills and drills, In the Feed Zone, and Coach's Corner. So definitely run to your favorite podcast app and check that out. So it looks like we're all live, ready to go. So we'll go ahead and get started. The article that we have today is by Cycling Weekly, and it's Winter's Here and Flu Fighting Foods. So a lot of our riders are in the depths of winter, and they are fighting themselves as far as, what they should do to kind of prevent themselves with the training that they're doing, and what they should do to make sure that they don't get sick so it doesn't, put back on their training. So very, very good opportunity here to kind of look at a couple things. So what we're going to highlight today is, just a handful of things. We're going to look at in avoiding the unavoidable. I'll touch a little bit on that. We're going to talk about myths and facts. We're going to be talking about real foods, some tips on warming it up, weeding out the bad stuff, how to fill the basket when at the grocery, and if you ride, making sure that you eat. So there's about 7 things here that we're going to touch on, see if we can get some more information and get a better understanding of how we can do that. Yeah, Pat mentions that I sound a little bit stuffed up. That's right. I did get a little bit sick last week. It would be the beginning of last week, about midweek. Ended up with a pretty bad fever for 2 days. So definitely happy to be back on the track to and road to recovery. So, all right. So here we go. So we're trying to explain how to eat the right foods. And there's nothing inevitable about getting sick in the winter, and I'll explain a little bit why and kind of the myths behind that. And so we're going to suggest some meal ideas, some foods to try to keep you free from getting sick, whether it be a cold or the flu, and while you ride through the colder months here. So a lot of times people feel like it's time to batten down the hatches. It's the time when the wind comes, the rain, the sleet, the snow. And whether we like it or not, winter does come, whether it's in the form of just colder nights or actual snow coming down and having to go out and shovel the snow. Definitely, those can also be what's happening out in your neck of the woods. So at this point, there's a lot of advice out there, as far as in the health world, wearing masks, rubber glove, disinfectant spray, just widespread panic about giving every person who dares to that's sick to not get near me. Unfortunately, in the line of work I do, I'm in touch with patients that are sick all the time. So really taking precautions is very, very important, and making sure that I come into the game healthy. So, after workouts, after big training blocks, it's sometimes difficult to make sure that I am keeping myself healthy with exposure I have with the patients that I see. But you don't really need to be, overly obsessive with this if we just follow the correct practical advice. And we're going to talk about a little bit about that today. As you get through these darker months, you'll find that you can get through relatively unscathed. And the best way is to keep strong through the winter on our diet. And that's what makes the difference. So we've taken a look at some of the best foods, kind of with some of the articles that Cycling Weekly has given us to eat while on the bike, while off the bike, while training in the cold. So what we're going to talk about today is the immune system and try to keep it fighting and fit to kill any unwanted germs and hopefully allow us to keep riding to the end of winter and then into our season. So the first one here that we have is to how to avoid the unavoidable. So you would think with freezing temperatures, the likelihood of catching a cold is far greater. And we've heard that before, that it's cold, going out when it's cold actually causes you to get sick. But in fact, looking at the scientific evidence to suggest that there is no correct actual correlation between cold weather or a change in temperature that actually leads to the cold. So the study was actually done in the 1960s, and it proved that you couldn't catch a cold from it being cold. And what they did is they subjected 400 volunteers to actual viruses that cause colds in different temperature environments. Yeah, and that's why this was done in the 1960s. I don't think anyone would have done this more recently. But here's the study. So they had some of the participants wear heavily insulated clothes, while some were subjected in their underwear, essentially. The temperatures fluctuated anywhere from 80 to 60 degrees. That's 25 to about 15 degrees Celsius. And the results showed that regardless of temperature of their clothing, all the groups had the same level of infection between the different groups of what they're wearing and the temperature fluctuations. So many people end up getting this wrong. So really what it comes down to, the reason why you don't want to go out when it's cold and it's damp, is that it's unpleasant. It's uncomfortable, but it does not, in fact, increase the chances of catching a cold. Whether we want to tell our 5-year-olds that this is the case, that's up to parenting. So, but as far as for you to understand, definitely there isn't the science to back this up. Flu and common colds are caused essentially by viruses or bacteria, not directly by the cold weather. So what is it caused by? People catch these viruses by more often in the winter because they're exposed to each other, more so because they are indoors together, more so than being outside. And they're more likely to spread the germs from one to another. So we're going to go over a couple myths and facts. So whether you catch a cold or many people essentially recommend that you take different supplements. So what supplements work, what don't. So, the jury is still out. So I'm going to just bring a little bit of the studies in. You're going to need to do a little bit more digging with some of these. And these may not be the most popular ideas, because there is a very popular belief that taking vitamin C is actually a very good thing to take to help boost your immune system. But again, in the science, it actually hasn't been proven clearly to be more effective than any other product. So in 2007, a more recent study, there was a trial involving 1,100 people that concluded that the regular ingestion of vitamin C had no effect on the common cold incidence in the ordinary population. But having a daily dose of fruits and vegetables or the vitamin C did slightly reduce the length and the severity of the cold. So there is that little bit there of having, our vitamin C daily. So it offered a very, very limited benefit from what they found from this 1,100 study, which is a pretty good number study. Echinacea, on the other hand, is another element that a lot of people use when they catch a cold. And in that same study, they didn't find that the same researcher didn't find that it necessarily worked or not. The root or seeds of the plant are used in herbal remedies in the belief that it will help them protect them from colds and infection. But again, inconclusive. But the thing is, if you do take it and you feel it makes a difference, a lot of people do like this herbal additive, the echinacea, that is. So the review of the trials of echinacea compared people who didn't and people who did were 30% less likely to get a cold. But it's noteworthy that the study had varying results with different preparations, meaning that if it was a tincture or a very strong amount and that sort of thing. So there's different ways. So head to the health food store, find out the different kind of preparations that they have and see what they find that is working for them. And the last one is zinc. It's another popular supplement choice, and you see it all over the shelves. And there is some evidence that zinc lozenges, as soon as a cold starts to appear, may reduce its duration. So things like Zicam and things very similar to that could be very useful. So as soon as you get that weird tickle, you kind of go for the zinc. But again, really very little evidence highlighting its positive effects kind of in the long run of things. But still, something that's there. So between echinacea, zinc, and vitamin C, kind of our three go-tos. So keep those in mind. The next part here, we're going to talk about real foods. Fruits and vegetables are the primary food resource to keep in our immune system during this peak condition, making sure you're getting your fruits and vegetables in. There's a lot of micronutrients, antioxidants, things that we get from these foods that we need to make sure that we have on board. This is because they contain, again, minerals, vitamins, and antioxidants, like I mentioned, for our body to fight infections, to grow strong. Supplements or dietary aids are all very well, meaning you're getting them otherwise, like fortified, but they give you that extra boost. So think of it as an extra boost from the supplements, but not your primary source. It's best to get it from real food. There's just no substitute, especially in the prevention of cold and flus, because you get the whole nutritional package. So for example, eating an orange is far better than just taking vitamin C in a powder form, let's say. Obviously, it's convenient, but getting those fruits and vegetables that have vitamin C in it, and then adding on top of that some of the powders and supplements could be a 1-2 punch that could be really useful. Contributing factors to why people get sick and to get ill during the winter is because they don't eat enough fruit and vegetables just during this time. Again, it's just not that available as well. So you really need to take conscious effort to make sure that you're doing that. So like when the rain's falling, the snow's falling, you just don't want a salad. So a lot of times, people want warm soups, but you could easily put a lot of those vegetables in the soup form, and it can work out very, very well. So no matter what time of year it is, everyone needs at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day to get the adequate amount of vitamins, minerals, fibers, antioxidants, everything. It doesn't mean that we should just feast on fruits and vegetables. There are other healthy options that also help us get nutrients and support our immune system. Foods such as lean meats, fish, low-fat dairy, whole grains and poultry, nuts and seeds. I guess the big thing is that you're getting a good gamut of food, making sure that you're not limiting your diet and getting the things that you need. But in particular, protein plays a really good role. It's extremely important for health and the immune system. It supplies the body with amino acids, and we know this from the recovery systems that we have, and it just supplies the body with what it needs to rebuild muscle damage and contribute to recovery, energy, mood, and brain function. The next point here, we're just about halfway through, is that you need to weed out the bad stuff. Clearly, it's easy to sit here and tell you to eat this and eat that and what you should go about putting in, but do us as coaches, I am a coach for the Endurance Lab, do we practice what I preach? So you look at diet from a different angle. Instead of searching for these miracles from supplements or some wonder food, you got to look into yourself. Essentially, we ask riders and coaches ourselves, and then we pose this to riders, is to look at their diet directly, whether it be photo document, just to get rid of some of the things that may not be working for you or be working against you. Particularly, sugary content of food may be very detrimental, not only for your immune system, but just your health overall. So the first step to supporting your immune system is to remove some of these items in the diet that could be burdening it. And so you want to look at your shopping list, and if there are things that you can go without. Okay, so it's removing some of those things. We're not asking, they're not posing to discard everything that you enjoy, but you need to kind of look into, an overall perspective of kind of what can help and what can make a difference. So eating whole fruit, drinking water rather than fruit juices can definitely make a huge difference in lowering your sugar intake. And with that, we've talked about before, having the fiber that goes along with that whole fruit makes a difference in digestion. So really the top tip that they have, moving forward is make sure that you read the back of food labels. And we've had a feed zone about that as well, to ensure that you know what you're eating and that there are many different forms of sugar and salt hidden among a lot of the names. So when possible, cooking from fresh is always better and a healthy option for you. So we're down to our last two, which is filling the basket when you're at the store. So when giving your shopping, it's a bit of, when you're going through and kind of giving it a bit of a spring cleaning, the next thing is to add foods into the basket that are protective, that have protective ingredients. And the overlaying kind of talk here is about adding fruits and vegetables. So each meal and snack should contain at least one food that can be classified as a fruit, a vegetable, or salad to keep your vitamin mineral intake topped up. Lunchtime can be a tricky part of the day to eat a good meal, especially if you're in a working office. It isn't exactly the ideal place to prepare a lunch, so you kind of need to plan ahead. If you could try to eat a salad or a meal with the salad ingredients, it can definitely help getting those minerals and vitamins in. Dinner time is where you can really go for the vegetable front. A lot of times on the front end, I found that a lot of athletes, or in my experience, you could also get a lot of vegetables in the form of a smoothie. So that's one thing to also think about. So choosing vegetables to go on variety, go with strong colors, and providing a range of vitamins and minerals for your body. And that's what they mean when they talk about eating the colors of the rainbow. Not everything should be green or orange or yellow or white. So by drip feeding your body with nutrients, it's the benefit of the vitamin and the mineral status, but also the fiber content of all these foods. And they actually fill you up on relatively few calories. So our last point here, if you ride, make sure you eat. A lot of times it's very popular, it's very in vogue to do fasted riding. And so sometimes it's misconstrued as like a fasting day, but it's not. If you do ride, let's say you even do a fasted ride or even a more high intense ride, you need to make sure that you eat after. Immunity is not only affected by our vitamin and mineral status, but the presence of tissue and damage or inflammation and particular micronutrients during exercise could also be a contributing factor. So it's very important to keep this under wraps. And understanding that if you do ride, you need to make sure you fuel your body and then take that into consideration for the rest of the day. We've had plenty of feed zones talking about how to balance post-workout recovery with the type or level of workout that you do. So the winter isn't going to be enough for a lot of us to stop from riding outdoors or riding at all. But if we haven't fueled ourselves correctly or efficiently, infections could occur. We need to be careful. You can lead to days or even weeks off the bike if, in fact, you do fall sick. So training low on carbohydrate stores has been linked with an increased release of hormones, something specific, a stress hormone called cortisol. And it's an increase in the immune system's inflammatory response and a decrease in the production of the immune markers. Essentially, all in all, it can make it so that if you are too low on carbohydrates, you may fall into a chance of getting sick a little bit easier. So you need to be careful. So if your immune system is low and a bug is doing the rounds around the office or that sort of thing, or on public transportation, you are susceptible to catching it. This is why you must make sure that we're eating adequately, not only before exercise, during, but also after. It doesn't, the food that we eat doesn't only serve to fuel us, but also to protect us with the immune system. So the same can be said for a poor protein intake. Research suggests that a lack of protein has been shown to affect our immune system as well. After exercise, our body is in a state of trauma. So it's important that we get this protein on board. Again, covered in the feed zone. Muscles are damaged, stress hormones are released, and the body's immune system is lowered. It's important to take proteins to repair these muscle damage and sugar to elevate those blood sugars. So we've kind of done a little quick round of the things that we have that we can help with fighting the flu with the foods here. Yeah, looks like one of our viewers are actually on the train right now watching this with mask on right now. And it's good that they're trying to avoid that. And if you've seen the pictures of where Pat rides the train, it is definitely a petri dish there of as far as bacteria and infection. So thanks for joining in, Pat. So quick roundup: we're trying to avoid the unavoidable, which means we are going to get sick. And what are the things that we can do to make sure that we don't, and kind of the foods that we can put in. We talked about a little bit about the myths and facts between vitamin C, echinacea, and zinc. It looks like one of our viewers, Nadia, has clicked on. And I remember a time last year that she really loaded up on a bunch of these supplements, and it actually worked for her. It was very early on, and it actually worked well for her. Maybe she can share her experience. Eating real foods. We talked about warming it up, meaning foods and kind of getting our bodies warm. Weeding out the bad stuff in our shopping carts and in our food every day. Filling our basket with immune improving or immune supplementing foods. And then making sure that you're fueling for your rides. So a couple tips for fighting the flu-fighting foods, and coming to a close to our little series here about winter and how we can avoid or how we can continue training during this winter time. I hope you've enjoyed this little series. We did take a little bit of break here between training camp and myself getting a little bit under the weather. I want to thank you guys for that. We are looking to continue in the feed zone. So if you come across an article that you're interested in, please send it through. Post it in any of the comments of In the Feed Zone or Zwift Live by ODZ. I'm more than happy. I'm definitely on a good amount on the different platforms, whether it be Training Peaks or Trainer Road or just live streams. Just let me know if you come across anything. We're more than happy to cover that for you. And if you wanted to take a look at where this article was found, it actually, if you head to the Cycling Weekly website, you can take a look at it there. It's under cyclingweek.com/news. Really good information there. And so with that, I want to thank you guys for coming in. There was one other comment here. Nadia was mentioning that it helped her last year. And that's what I do from now when I feel like something's coming down. Good. That's good. And essentially it was upping her vitamin C. And I believe it was zinc. There are a couple other things in herbals. We could reach out to Andrea Cullen from the Endurance Lab as well. She's got some really good comments. I'll see if I can bring in some links from the forum. That have been really good. But with that, I want to say thanks for joining in the Feed Zone. And I hope your training is going well during the winter. And I'll see you next week. If you have any questions, leave them here. And again, have a great day.